Hi y'all, I'm Brenda with Blessings and Bread. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be making two wonderful comfort foods that are easy to make and wonderful to eat. I especially love these in the winter time when we're looking for just some warm comfort food to kind of brave off that chilly weather. And so today I'm going to be making a chili cheese bread recipe that I got from my mother-in-law, and then I'm going to be making some homemade broccoli cheese soup. And so let's get started. I'm going to begin with the chili cheese bread and get it in the oven baking. And so let's get started. I absolutely love this little recipe because it is so simple to make, and it is delicious as well. It goes great with soups or chili, and it's a really good bread that you can just whip up very easily. The reason it's so easy is because it begins with a baking mix. I'm using Bisquick, and I think, but any baking mix, like Pioneer baking mix, any of those will do. Today I'm using Bisquick, and it begins with 4 cups of the baking mix, and I already have that in my bowl. And then it calls for 2 cups of shredded Colby or Monterey cheese, and what I choose to use is the mix. So I have a mix of Colby and Monterey cheese, or this might even be a 4 cheese Fiesta cheese, but basically it's just a grated cheese, and I'm going to mix the cheese and the baking mix together. And then we're going to set that aside, and we're going to mix together our wet ingredients. So let's push that to the side. And we'll start with our wet ingredients. We're going to start with 2 large eggs. And I'm going to mix those. Just mix them up a little bit before I add the other wet ingredients. Again, I'm not trying to whip air into them necessarily. I'm just trying to get the yolks and the whites kind of mixed together. So just a little bit of washing back and forth. I love this little wire whisk. It's by Rada, and a lot of people I see have Rada knives and Rada. It's a fairly good product at a very reasonable price. All right, and now I'm going to combine, let me get my recipe over here closer. I'm going to combine the milk, and it's going to call for 1.5 cups of milk. And next, we're going to add 1/4 cup of melted butter. And 1 4-ounce can of green chilies. This is what puts the chili in the chili cheese bread. So just 1 4-ounce can of green chilies. Mix those in. And then the final thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper, ground red pepper. So it gives a little kick besides the chilies. I'm going to mix that in. And then the final step really is just to combine the wet and the dry ingredients. So I'm going to get my dry ingredients back over here, and we are just going to pour in our wet ingredients. I'm going to make a little well in the middle, a little hole there so that I can pour that in. And then we are just going to mix those until it's mixed and well blended. So see how simple this is? I mean, really it doesn't take but just a few minutes to make this. And it does take a while to bake. We're going to bake it in a 9x5 loaf pan that's been lightly greased, and I've already prepared my pan ahead of time. But we're going to have to bake it at 350 for 55 minutes. So it does bake for a while. And so you got to plan ahead, but to get it in the oven is about 15 minutes. It's just super, super quick and easy. All right, that seems to be mixed. So now I'm going to pour this into my, whoops, just when I said that, I saw some flour, dry flour. A little more mixing. And now I'm going to pour it into my pan. And then into my oven that's already been preheated to 350. So that's what it's going to look like. Let me get a rag and clean up my messes. And then this will just go into the oven for 55 minutes at 350 degrees. Now I'm going to make my broccoli cheese soup while the chili cheese bread is baking. And I'm excited because I'm getting to use some of the broccoli that I grew in my backyard garden. So I'm going to get started by chopping up this broccoli from my garden. The recipe calls for two 10-ounce packages of chopped broccoli. And what I'm finding is it's a little bit harder to find chopped broccoli. A lot of times you can find the flowerets, and but to find like chopped broccoli is a little bit harder. So what I'm going to do is use some of my garden fresh broccoli, and then I'm going to add some frozen to it because I don't think I have quite as much as two 10-ounce packages here with my little broccoli from my garden. But I wanted to use that and get that good fresh flavor in this broccoli cheese soup. But the recipe actually calls for two 10-ounce packages. This recipe is old enough, it calls for 2 boxes. And you can hardly find any frozen foods in boxes anymore, but used to that was the standard, is your frozen vegetables were always in a little box. So I'm going to get started chopping this, and then we'll be ready. All the other ingredients I already have prepped, and we'll get started making this broccoli cheese soup. I've removed most of the leaves off of my broccoli, and now I'm just going to chop the flowerets and some of the stems into smaller pieces. This is probably something you can do according to how you like it. You may want bigger chunks in your broccoli cheese soup, and that will be fine. We like ours chopped up pretty well in ours, so I'm just going to give this a little bit of a rough chop, and then we'll actually put this on to cook here in a minute. But let me get this chopped first. Let me just say too that what's so great about growing your own broccoli is when I buy broccoli in the grocery store, I just don't care for the stem part at all. But when you grow your own, the stem is tender and has good flavor. So even the stem can be included if you're growing your own. I'm also going to chop the frozen broccoli that I have, since it is just flowerets. Missed a few leaves. Take those off. Since I only have the flowerets, and we do like ours chopped more than little flowerets in our broccoli cheese soup, I'm going to also chop it up a little bit. I put it in the microwave just for a few minutes. Not to cook it, but really more or less to kind of thaw it out and make it soft enough that I can chop it. So I'm going to push that aside. I'm going to say that looks like more than 10 ounces, but not 20 ounces. I wonder if this is by weight. It is by weight. I think what I can do, this is me being maybe too particular, but I think what I can do is I can weigh my this broccoli on my little scale and figure out exactly how much broccoli I have with my chopped fresh broccoli from my garden. So I'm going to get a bowl and I'm going to actually weigh this and see how much I actually have. All right, so I have my scale here and I'm going to turn it on and turn it on to ounces. It's already on ounces. So now I'm going to add my bowl to the scale and then I'll zero that out. And now we're going to see exactly how much broccoli I had. I'm just curious to know. I've never weighed my broccoli before. Oh, actually, that's very interesting because it's really not quite 10 ounces. It's only about 8, almost 9 ounces. So it's almost 10 ounces. So that's good. And then now I'm going to go ahead and take this 10-ounce bag and put it on my chopping board, and it's even still a little bit icy in places. And I'm going to also chop this so that it's smaller. And like I said, save yourself some trouble and find some chopped broccoli, but sometimes I'm limited, especially if I'm shopping at Walmart. They don't always have lots of choices anymore. And so I just have to get what I can get. If you make it with all the fresh broccoli, it will take a little longer for the broccoli to cook than this frozen broccoli. But you can hear some of it still got ice on it. All right, I think that's chopped enough. It doesn't have to be completely chopped, but. And now I'm going to just combine this broccoli with the broccoli from my garden. I wish I had enough from my garden for the whole thing, but I didn't. I could have bought more fresh broccoli, but that's just what I already had in my fridge. And so this is what I'm using. So a little bit of fresh and a little bit of frozen. But again, the recipe calls for 2 10-ounce packages. And this package actually is 10.8 ounces. So they changed that through time. They'll change that. But I don't think it's critical in this recipe exactly how much broccoli you have. So if you just get close to 20 ounces, you'll be okay. So now we're going to go over to the stove and we're going to start putting our broccoli cheese soup together and cooking it. I'm going to begin by using 1/4 of a cup of butter, and I'm going to saute some onions. The onions, it calls for green onions, which I don't have. Seems like I never have green onions. They just don't hold up as well. So I'm using some onions that I just have, and I just chopped them up, and I did about 1/4 of a cup, maybe. I may not use all of these, but basically I'm going to put those in there, and I'm going to saute these onions a little bit. And once I get them sauteed, then we can move forward. So this may take a little bit. It might help if I turn on the heat. It might cook a little better. I'm using a pretty heavy-duty pan. I think you have to kind of watch this to make sure it doesn't stick when it's finishing up. So be sure and cook it in a heavy-duty pan. I really wish I had a little bit bigger pan, than this, but I know that this will all fit in here, but it will really be full when I'm finished. So I'm going to get these onions sauteed, and then we'll be back. I've just cooked the onions just until they're kind of a little bit soft or kind of clear, kind of lightening up. And so they're ready. And so next I'm going to go ahead and add in my broccoli. And then the recipe calls for 2 cans of chicken broth. And I'm using one of these boxes. It's got, I think, 32 ounces. So it's a little bit more than maybe the recipe calls for, but it'll just make it not quite so thick. And we like ours where it's not quite super thick. So I've used, I think, 32 ounces. And I'm going to stir that a little bit. And now we are just going to let this come to a boil. And we're going to let it cook until our broccoli is tender. I think my broccoli is just about done and tender. So now we can continue and make the rest of the soup, turn it in basically into soup now. And we're going to start by adding a pint of half and half. If you don't have half and half, we have used milk before. It's not as good if you don't have half and half, but we have done that before because we just don't live close to stores that carry half and half so much. But also I have also done is I have used like mixed a cup of whipping cream and a cup of milk when I had that. So you can adjust it in any of those ways. Now I'm going to make a little slurry to thicken the soup. And I'm going to use, this is about 3 tablespoons of flour. The recipe just says use flour and water, but I kind of adapted that a little bit, and I like to use milk to thicken this. So I'm just going to get a wire whisk and add a little milk to this flour and make a little slurry. Looks like I might need to add a little bit more milk. I don't want that too thick. I'm not trying to make dumplings here. I just want to thicken my soup. And what I'm doing is I'm making a slurry, but then I'm going to add to this some of the hot broth here out of the soup so that I don't make dumplings, basically. I don't know if it's correct to say I'm tempering it, but basically I want to add a little the hot liquid from the soup into my slurry to heat it up gradually so it won't cook the flour and make dumplings. All right, so I've kind of got that all mixed together. And now I'm just going to add that to the broccoli cheese soup. And now we're just going to cook this kind of on medium low, because if you cook it higher, it will stick sometimes. So I'm going to let this thicken and cook until it's a little bit thick. I don't want it real thick because we're still going to add cheese to this. And then also it'll get thicker as it cools. And we really like it better when it's not quite so thick. So I'll let this cook for a little bit, and I'll just stir it occasionally to keep it from sticking. And then when it's a little bit thickened, we'll come back and add our cheese, which is the last step. The broccoli cheese soup, I've been standing here stirring it pretty much constantly to keep it from sticking, and it's not real thick, but I can tell it has thickened up. So I'm going to now add the it's Velveeta cheese. I'm going to add the Velveeta cheese, and we're just going to stir it. Oh, I'm making a mess. That's what I do when I cook. I'm going to just stir this now until the cheese melts. I may turn my fire down a little bit. Again, we don't like ours really, really thick. If you prefer a thicker soup, you might want to use 4 tablespoons instead of 3 tablespoons of flour for your slurry. But this is, as soon as we get the cheese melted, this broccoli cheese soup is going to be ready. So and I do stir it the whole time I'm trying to melt the cheese to keep it from sticking. While I've been doing this, too, my bread has come out of the oven. So my bread is over there. I can smell it. It looks delicious. Letting it cool a little bit before I slice it. But when we get this cheese melted, I will plate up some of this soup in a bowl and cut us some bread, and we will get to see what a great comfort food meal this makes for a wintry day. Well, I am super excited because my chili cheese bread is done and my broccoli cheese soup, and I'm ready for a taste test. I'm really actually ready to eat lunch. It's lunchtime. So I'm going to dip me up a bowl of this. I will say I went back and decided to add another tablespoon of flour. So I did another slurry with a tablespoon of flour. So I ended up putting 4 tablespoons of flour in there. So when I do my recipe, I will include that. The original recipe just says thicken with flour and water, which I prefer the milk. And then most of the time I'm guessing, but for this I wanted to figure it out so that I would have it where you could make it and know that it was going to turn out. So I think the 4 worked out perfectly. And now we're going to cut into this bread. It's still warm. Probably would be better if I didn't cut it till it had a chance to cool off. But it looks delicious. Hopefully I can get a close-up of that in a few minutes. Well, my battery died on my camera, so I had to fix that. And so now I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to try a little bit of my soup and my broccoli cheese soup. I know it's going to be delicious, and these pair so well together. So as you can see, I thickened it a little bit, and plus it started to cool down a little. So that's perfect. As I don't know if I've already said, but we were definitely sick over the holidays around here. Whatever went through this house, whether it was a cold or COVID or flu, all 3 of us had it. And this is the kind of food that just feels good. And I'm the one, everybody else's seems better, but I'm the one who's still coughing and dealing with a little bit of the after effects of whatever I had. So this food is delicious to me, and it's just that comfort food that I need as I'm trying to get better. Delicious bread, and it was so easy, and it pairs perfectly with this broccoli cheese soup. I hope you've enjoyed these 2 recipes today and enjoyed this video. I apologize. I know my voice still sounds kind of hollow or whatever from having such a head cold. but I've been excited to get back to making videos. I've really been where I really could not make them. So this is my first one of the year, and I'm excited to share this with you. I'm hoping to share more easy meal ideas with you. It seems like those are the videos everybody likes the best. So this is certainly an easy, delicious meal that you can make that doesn't take much time at all. And I hope you'll try it. I really appreciate everyone who's watching my channel. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like this. Subscribe if you're not a member, and come along with me on this journey. As this new year gets started, I'm really excited about pushing my channel forward. I would really like to see it grow, and I would love for you to come along on that journey. I thank you for being patient with me when I was not able to make videos, but I think I'm back in the swing of things, and hopefully I'll be able to make a video at least once a week for you guys. So I hope to see you the next time I'm in my kitchen, on my porch, or in my garden.